It's Wednesday, April 6th, and you're watching CT Pulse on the HAN network. I'm Kate Czaplinski with my co-host Josh Fisher.
Hey,
Josh, we're back in studio. It's been a couple weeks.
Yes, it's nice. I was able to find it this morning. So
I know. We were on the FCX spring tour, but you know.
It's nice not to be on an RV, I have to say.
But we're back, and we have a lot we're going to talk about today, Josh, including some stories that you've been following this week.
Yeah, sure. We have, once again, there's more reports about how your tax money doesn't go that far here in Connecticut. We have a presidential candidate actually coming to the state.
You're going to go see him.
Yeah, John Kasich will be here on Friday. We have some Republicans around the state endorsing him, and a lot more to talk about today, including Doug Smith's going to stop by with some cartoons.
Right.
And but first, we have some great guests here.
We have two special guests in studio, return guests, Dana Haddix-Wright and Joy O'Meara, who are two of many parents who have been supporting House Bill 5450, which would allow the use of medical marijuana for children, which right now is not part of Connecticut's medical marijuana law, right, ladies?
Correct.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Since we last talked in July, a lot of things have happened. In fact, this House bill was just approved 20-7 by the Public Health Committee in moving forward. So exciting things are on the horizon. But first, we want to talk a little bit about how you both got involved in this cause. Dana, I'll ask you first.
Sure.
Tell us about your daughter, Ella.
My daughter has Dravet syndrome, and once she was diagnosed around 2.5, I went to the Dravet support group site, which is on Facebook, and I became acquainted with a lot of the other mothers from all over the United States and internationally. And almost immediately, I had heard of other mothers who were moving to Colorado or already in Colorado and trying medical marijuana. And at first I was a little skeptical because I didn't really know a whole lot about it. But once I started hearing and seeing results, because the mothers share what they're doing to help alleviate seizures, and then I became a little more of a supporter.
Right.
And then when it came up as a bill in Connecticut, I said, I absolutely have to support this. And so I started doing my own research through talking to the other mothers, and I'm on board with it.
And we should say Ella's on a lot of serious medications right now. Can you tell us about some of those?
She's on 3 medications and 2 supplements, because oftentimes the medications drain certain vitamins and minerals from different organs or systems in the body. So she's on 3 medications. One is not even FDA approved for children, but she's on it, on a high dose of it. And they're all under the classification of benzodiazepine. A lot of people know that word because it's used in a lot of antidepressants or mood stabilizers. It comes with a lot of side effects, aggression, cognitive delays, loss of balance, and fatigue. So oftentimes we don't really know how it's going to affect her behavior. It just depends on how her body is metabolizing them at the time.
Right.
So.
And Joy, tell us a little bit about Jameson, your son.
Jameson's 7 years old. He had his first seizure at 18 months, and he lost every skill that he had at that point and regressed to a newborn. We started going to every hospital in New England, practically, some of the best, and he started some hard doses of medication. He started a high-dose steroid treatment, but each year we started more medication, and we never had seizure control. At 5 years old, he received a feeding tube placement because he was seizing all the time, and we couldn't get the medication in him because it was such massive amounts. And that was just absolutely terrifying for us. Once we got the feeding tube, we started getting the medication in him, and it was great, but we still didn't have seizure control. Jameson is severely delayed because of his seizures, and at any moment they can set him back. He's speaking again, which is wonderful, but we know that that can be taken away again, and it's terrifying. And we still don't have good control, so about 2 years ago, we started doing our own research and talking with families about cannabis, and we absolutely know this will help. We know. We have no question in our mind. It will help him in some way.
And now I was talking with both of you before we were on air, just kind of about the life. I mean, you mentioned recently, I know we have a photo of you guys out for a hike, and just moments later, your son had a very severe seizure. You had to carry him out of the woods to get help.
Yeah.
And, you know, Dana, you were talking about just when you think life is feeling normal, some serious medical issue comes up.
Yeah.
So what is that like, living with that kind of stress when you know there's something out there that could potentially help that?
I mean, at times it's so frustrating for us as moms. We'll confide in each other, and it's so frustrating because we see these little ones and they struggle so much, and they love life so much. That's what gives us the drive to fight. Jameson loves everything about life, so
a lot of
that
our
gives
kids,
us a reason.
A lot of our children have no fear.
Yeah.
And they don't think about, if I am in a bouncy house, I'm going to have a seizure. They just want to be in a bouncy house, or they want to ride a roller coaster. And a lot of the kids, they don't have the energy or the stamina to do the simplest things, but yet they want to so bad. And for us, I don't know a single mom or dad who doesn't have a little bit of PTSD, because we're constantly on guard, constantly on guard, and we're always just waiting for the shoe to drop. And, you know, we don't want it to happen, but as soon as we let our guard down, something will most definitely happen.
Now, Joy, you say you know that this would help Jameson, medical marijuana. How do you know that?
There's so much that we've seen in these stories of families. So whether it's cognitive improvement or their immune systems improve, we know that it has healing powers of some sense. And we know that it's helping with seizures. So whether it helps him to speak better or it helps him to get stronger, we know something about it will benefit him, because the families that are doing it, their results are so amazing that in our hearts we just know. And maybe it won't stop Jameson's seizures, we know that, but what the families are doing is using a small amount of THC when the child has a huge seizure. And our only alternative right now is a high dose of Diastat, which is so strong in their body, it basically knocks them out. And some of us have to call 911 right away when we administer that. So we're administering that drug on our own, and they're really paying the price. With THC, the families are saying, I've watched so many videos, they're just dropping a little drop in the child's mouth as they're seizing, and you watch the child just come out of the seizure. Like, okay, too. Like talking or asking for water, or carrying on with their day. Within seconds.
Wow. And are there some in the medical arena who have been supporting this?
Yeah, the Connecticut Pediatrics supports it.
Academy of
Pediatrics.
Academy of Pediatrics.
They were not supporting it last year.
Right.
And the Connecticut Department of Public Health supports the House.
So how does that feel? Because last year, like the Academy of the American Academy of Pediatrics didn't support this bill.
The bill as it was,
and they reversed
and this bill is better than last year's bill.
What makes it better?
This bill allows us to find the right dosage for our child. What we've learned from all these families is that it's not just CBD. They need that THC. So this will give us the opportunity for seeing what Ella needs, seeing what Wes needs, seeing what Jameson needs, like we do with all our medications. This gives us that freedom to try different medications and see what works. And we know it's going to take a little while, but it's giving us that freedom, so we love this bill, just the way it is.
And they also removed a line from the bill. It was just one sentence or two sentences that took away the option or any insinuation that it would be smoked or inhaled. So it has to be a pill or it has to be an oil. But what's nice and what Joy touched on is that we can tweak if it's past this time around. Parents will have the ability to tweak the amount of CBD and THC if the child even needs THC, which we're finding that most of them do need a little bit of it.
And so THC is the element that would get someone high,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So this would necessarily be a smaller amount or without THC, so the child wouldn't necessarily be getting high in the traditional
Yeah,
sense.
Correct.
exactly. And we were just saying the other day to each other at breakfast that I have an entire pantry full of medications for Jameson. We can very well give our kids high doses of medication. A lot of times that's actually what's prescribed to them, which would keep them floored on the couch all the time. So we have narcotics in our home. We're not looking to drug our child up. We're looking for our child to be able to enjoy life and live a long life and get off some of these pharmaceuticals that are causing problems that we know, we don't even know how bad the problems are, but we know because children can gain low immune systems, kidney failure, liver failure, kidney just disease from this. So we know all the risks to our medications right now, and we know that right now there's no risk to cannabis, and no one has ever overdosed on cannabis. And our children could overdose, and our children have been toxic before. Jameson's been toxic in the hospital by given too high doses by the nursing staff by accident of his own medication, which at high doses will kill him. So
I've had to overdose my daughter to get her to stop seizing.
Yeah. I mean, we play with medication all the time. We even ask each other, what would you do? Because to hear from a neurologist sometimes takes an hour, but to hear from a mom takes 5 minutes. So I've asked another mom, what do I do? I've already given Diastat. Do I give on-feed? Do I cut the pill? Do I put it through his feeding tube? We already are juggling it. And the doctors always say to us, oh, okay, so what did you do? Did it work? Yeah, it worked. Okay, that's good. I mean, they can't always be by our side. So they know we're the ones always making decisions.
Or
and they trust us.
figuring it out.
They know we want our children to be okay.
Yeah, and oftentimes we have to deal with the emergency crews who are like, how could you give your young child so much of the Valium or the nasal spray? Like, how could you do that? What choice did we have?
Right.
We're trying to save their lives before the EMTs get there.
It's so often for you guys a life or death situation, which I think maybe a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah,
the
it's quick
stress of.
thinking sometimes. We've had to do CPR. We've had to make quick decisions on medication, knowing that his life is at stake. We've had to do things. She's had to do things for Ella, and it takes seconds. You can't make a phone call. You have to decide which medication. You have to decide whether you administer another one or not. You have to make all those decisions all the time, and the doctors always go to us about medications. Is it working? Do you see any effects of it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? They can't ask our kids.
Right.
They ask us, and
They'll ask us,
they always take what
do you
we
think
say.
we should go
Yeah,
up? Do you think
always.
we should go down? How do you think they're
Yeah.
And that's why with some of the skeptics or opponents of the medical marijuana, they say, I only support it for end-of-life care. But for us, any seizure could be end of life or the end of their lives.
Yeah.
So when we witness a seizure, we're thinking, this is the end, unless we can get it to
Unless
stop.
you step in. Well,
Yeah,
we're
it's 'cause-
going to step out for a quick break, and when we get back, we do want to talk about some of the opponents. We want to talk about what's happening in Hartford right now. We're going to take a quick break. You're watching CT Pulse. We'll be back with more right after this.
It's time to come back to hometown banking, where people are taken into account, not just balances, where community comes first, a place where there's more than one kind of interest, where automation will never replace consideration, where they not only know your name, they know your dog's name too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
Alberto Londano Professional Painting, Wallpapering, and Carpentry has been serving Fairfield County for over 20 years. Based in Norwalk, Alberto takes pride in his work by offering you only the best quality service and products. Call Alberto today to get a free estimate and be one step closer to a new and exciting home makeover. 203-866-9635.
Join the HAN Network and Make-A-Wish Connecticut to help make travel wishes come true for local kids with life-threatening medical conditions. Donate your unused airline miles to the HAN Network Wishes in Flight campaign. Over 70% of wishes granted involve travel, and your unused airline miles can help make kids' dreams become a reality. Plus, once you donate your miles to Make-A-Wish, they will never expire. Donate your unused miles and help the HAN Network share the power of a wish.
I'm Kate Czaplinski. Join us for Coffee Break, weekdays at 11 to get the latest Connecticut news, weather, high school sports, and more. News doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break on the HAN Network.
You are watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. Nearly 500,000 viewers enjoyed our broadcasts in the first 5 months. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Jessica Murrin, Advertising Director, at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to CT Pulse on the HAN Network, along with Kate Czaplinski. I'm Josh Fisher. Today we're joined by Dana Haddix-Wright and Joy O'Meara, who are two mothers who are proponents of legalizing medical marijuana for children, particularly their children. Right now I want to talk about what some of the opponents of this bill have to say. The current bill is HB 5450. And I was reading over Tony Boucher, State Senator Tony Boucher's testimony that she made in the Public Health Committee earlier this session. And one thing she does, which has continually come up, and this is also part of a push for the state to raise the tobacco smoking age to 21 and then to 25. I think these are two different topics and they don't really relate to each other. But anyway, she said that prolonged marijuana use has been found to hinder brain development, resulting in lower IQ and poor memory later in life, and an increased susceptibility to mental illness such as schizophrenia and psychosis. Marijuana has been linked to heart problems in young adults, to the suppression of the immune system, and to even an increased incidence of stroke in younger users. And she goes on to say that people addicted to marijuana are more than 3 times more likely to be addicted to heroin, which she calls a frightening development this day and age, as we have, of course, this heroin epidemic that is swept the nation. Right. Yes, thank you, Kate. So, what's your reaction to that about this hindering brain development, Dana?
I think sounds like she's confusing recreational use and the medical use, which is overseen by medical professionals or licensed practitioners. We're not talking about children who have 100% healthy brains. These children, by the seizures alone, are already suffering from some kind of brain damage, because any seizure lasting over 10 minutes can cause irreparable damage to the brain. I don't know where she's getting her numbers or her research from, but we are talking to actual mothers of patients who are using medical marijuana, and they're finding that their children who were nonverbal or immobile are now verbal, and they're walking on their own.
Wow. And what about the addiction component that she brings up?
I find that very insulting, honestly. I think that's really disgusting to refer to our children in the same context as heroin use. Mm-hmm. We are trying to prolong our children's lives, and we are trying to give them a good quality of life. So to even give that suggestion when you're talking about medical marijuana for little kids that we're worried about living to their teen years is really quite disgusting. Last year I wasn't as appalled as I am this year, but the more research out there and the more that has become public knowledge of this, it's just insulting and really upsetting, and she needs to really watch what she says in the future, because she's talking about our children that are on very hard pharmaceuticals, and we're looking for a safer alternative and to get them off pharmaceuticals. And this is also a medication, just like anything else. So it's not like we hand our children their medications to administer themselves. This is tightly monitored. My sons go through his feeding tube. Our children already have
They're addicted to their drugs already.
yeah, they have severe problems from their meds, and they don't have the IQ that typical children have. So to even bring up their level of IQ, like, is so upsetting, because I mean, my sweet boy is 7, but is like an 18-month-old or 2-year-old just learning to talk and is in diapers. And so to even like say that, does she know what we're talking about?
She doesn't. She's
Yeah,
out of touch.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more upset this year than I was last year when I first heard these terms.
Well,
now
that-
it's
and-
just unsettling.
And not to try to upset you more, but I do want to read another passage from her testimony, which she later said, the state of Connecticut has a duty to do everything possible to increase access to proven and effective medical treatments for children. As it stands, the scientific evidence in favor of medical marijuana is too scant and possible consequences too great to fall under this category. Even Willie Nelson has warned publicly and on television that we should never allow marijuana use in young children, as it affects their brain development permanently. What's your
I
reaction
think that's
to
just
that?
part of her fear-mongering campaign that she seems to stick to. She doesn't have anything concrete.
Yeah.
She hasn't reached out to any families that would be willing to try medical marijuana for their children. I haven't heard any cases of her reaching out to families in other states who are finding success in it. And I know that it's not going to work for every single child, because it's very individualized, just like the medications that our kids are on.
She's right, though. Connecticut legislators do have a responsibility, but they have a responsibility to save our kids and to prevent a death and prevent more of this happening. And we are the only state with medical marijuana not allowed to our children. So why are our children any less important than the adults in our state? And the components in cannabis are powerful antioxidants and powerful neuroprotectants. Together, it makes a medication, just like anything else, but it's saving children's lives. So we need this, and they do owe it to us.
It's also a natural.
It is natural.
As opposed to these synthetics.
Yeah.
And they know how it affects the brain. They don't even, I've had a neurologist tell me, we don't know why these medications work. We don't know how, we just know that they work in some kids.
Well, Jameson and Ella are both on Onfi. Jameson takes 4 times the amount of Onfi than Ella. When I read about Onfi, you are not supposed to stay on it long term, because slowly over time you become highly dependent on it. So our kids at almost the same weight and age are on Jameson, the highest dose possible of a high dose drug that you have a hard time coming off of and is highly addictive. And we're still having seizures. So that's where we are.
Just to give you an idea of how addictive these drugs are and how it can impact the seizure control and the addictive nature of it. One morning, I forgot to give Ella half a tablet, like 5 milligrams of Onfi. She had a seizure 4 hours later, which is when her overnight dose would have lost effect.
Wow.
Had I given her that half a pill, she probably would not have had a prolonged seizure, and which landed her in the hospital. That's just one medication.
We've had new seizures with new medications too that have never gone away. So we've started medications and they've worked, and then all of a sudden 2 months later we're having seizures we've never seen before. And they still keep them on the medication, and then they add another medication for the newest type of seizure, and then you go back and you look and you're like, it had to have been that med. And then you read the side effects of the seizure meds, and sometimes it's more seizures. So we're always constantly battling all of this. But her comments and what she says, her facts just don't seem to line up anymore. And
They're very outdated.
Yeah.
Again, she seems very out of touch and unwilling to change her perspective, given what we know and what we're willing to share. She doesn't want to listen to us.
And she is your state senator, right? You live in Wilton, so
Yes.
you are one of her constituents.
And I am one of her constituents, and I do vote whenever I can. I did vote for her the last time she was up for election, given what she said she stood for, and I will tell you that will never happen again.
Have you two considered moving to a state that would allow you to give these THC, give cannabis to your kids?
Yeah, I mean, we've had the conversation. My husband works for the state, and I have a 15-year-old in high school. We would have to separate our family. But in September, September to January, Jameson was severely sick, and I was making the conversation constantly with family members that if things got worse, I have to go. I have to go if things get any worse. It always runs through our minds when things are really bad, and then we get out of a bad phase. So we made it through another phase, and we get to breathe a little, and
Well, then
fight.
my response is, though, is why should that even be an option? Why is that thrown out at us? When we talk about moving, we're talking about switching all of the doctors that our kids are on, because most of the time they're not just seeing a neurologist, they're seeing 5 other specialists because of the underlying health conditions that are caused by the seizure disorders and all of that. So and then you also have to think of switching school systems or where you can get services covered.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not
definitely
so
It's
simple.
not.
A
It's
lot
not
of people
simple.
say
It seems
but,
easy,
right.
but it's not easy
Right.
at
And
all.
you do represent a larger group
Yeah.
of parents, and there
Yeah.
have been some that have moved,
Yes.
correct? That have moved to other
Yeah.
states, because as you said, there's 23 states with medical marijuana laws, and Connecticut's the only one so far that doesn't allow for pediatric use.
Right.
Do you feel heartened at all this year that it passed the Public Health Committee, and it seems like more and more people are supporting it? And I know you had written testimony in Hartford and Joy. You testified up in
did,
Hartford
yeah.
at the Public Health Committee. So what was that like? Scary, I'm
Terrifying,
sure.
like everything. But I just spoke from my heart. I spoke of Jameson. I spoke of other children. I literally spoke from my heart at the need of this for all children and future generations of children. The response was amazing. That entire day, I was approached, I was called, I was emailed, that people were so touched by my testimony, that it changed their mind, and they did overwhelmingly vote for us. So it was 21-7, which is amazing. So we're already doing so much better than last year's bill, and we feel really good about this. So
What's the next step? What's happening now?
Well, it's on the calendar in the House.
as of this morning.
Just
As
found
of
out
this
today,
morning.
right?
What will happen is it will go to a subcommittee of Republicans and Democrats, and they will determine whether or not it needs to go to another committee for further review. And then if it's determined that it will go forward, then the House will have a chance to vote on it.
So, and then the Senate would have to vote on it. Is there chances that these things could be blocked too? I mean,
Yeah, there's the chance.
right?
Yeah, but we're gonna keep at this.
So
I
what
mean,
can people do who are watching or have seen this to help you
yeah,
out?
our page.
They can go to our page. It's on Facebook, Medical Cannabis for Kids and CT. We so far have over 1,500 followers, and we are really good at updating
Yeah, who
the
to
folks.
call,
And
who to email. We give a good list, so all you have to do is click and send a letter.
Okay.
And it only takes like
Right.
20
Because it is
seconds
all online.
sometimes.
You can do it online.
Yeah,
right?
and it means something. We need to make our voices heard. When people say, what can I do? That's what they need to do. And that's what I always tell people. It really matters, and I know this matters because the Health Committee voted so much in our favor, and I know everyone's testimonies and letters passed it this time as
You
opposed
can't
to last
sit
year.
back. You cannot
Yeah.
sit back
Yeah.
and say somebody else will take care
Don't
of it.
think it won't be your child. That's what I always want to say. Even to the senators, please, I'm sure you have children, grandchildren. You have no idea that next week or tomorrow you'll wake up and that beautiful child that you love so much, which is just like us, we love our children too, will have a seizure or have a condition where they need this. That's why it's so important.
I mean, up until Ella was 9 months old, I thought she was completely healthy and typical, and I didn't have a care in the world.
Yeah.
But
Life
obviously things changed.
Well, I think anyone who hears your story, you know, whether they have sick kids or no kids, can certainly relate to the anguish that you two and other mothers and fathers, you know, with kids who could be helped are going through here in this state. And I think an important thing too in Connecticut, because which Connecticut's not unique in this sense, but all the bills end up getting passed basically in like the last 48 hours of the session when things do get passed. So it's very important to keep on your legislators
Yes.
and to keep, because it's a whirlwind at the end. So you never know what's going to happen, what's going to end up getting passed, what's not going to get passed, what gets blocked, what gets pocketed.
Yeah.
Right?
We hope that people, we were saying, vote not just with their party lines, vote on your individual self.
Right.
Read the bill. Please understand the bill. We remind, even yet again, people this last time thought children would be smoking marijuana.
Right.
It's important that people understand it is not to be smoked. It is just another medication, closely monitored. So it's just important that everyone understands that they read and then they vote based on themselves, not on whether they're a Democrat or a Republican. We don't want, because we've been told by people, I can't vote for it because, you know,
My party.
The
of my
party,
party.
right.
And I'm like, what?
We're voting for leaders.
Yeah.
We're electing leaders, not followers, not
Right.
people that don't
Yeah.
do their job. And
Yeah.
not only that, but we're paying for them to be there. So
Yeah. So, and this year, every state senator and state rep is up for re-election this year in Connecticut, as this happens every even year. Have you thought about getting politically involved or forming a political action committee and supporting, publicly supporting or putting money toward representatives or against representatives? Is that something that,
I might consider it.
yeah.
I mean, we're so busy. We're working
Oh, I'm sure, no,
moms.
I'm sure I know
We
you're
got a
busy
lot
moms.
going on.
Yeah.
But if I had the opportunity, I definitely would.
Yeah, I mean, we're learning so much, what we knew 2 years ago, what we knew a year ago, what we know now, the momentum we're gaining, the people, the contacts. I mean, we are just regular moms, and even the day I was in Hartford, I mean, I felt like I don't belong here. But
Before we let you go, you know, we certainly talked about Senator Boucher's testimony. What are some of the legislators who have, you know, who have had a sympathetic ear for you?
Yeah, there's several.
There's
who are they?
Senator McCarthy. I believe she was at the hearing. She seemed to really take an interest in this. And she also responded to an email that I sent out.
Yeah, there's representatives that are co-sponsors of the bill as well, and they were very receptive and amazing. And Representative Susan Johnson, Representative Emmett Riley, Representative Christine Carputo, Peter Tursick, and 28th District Russell Moon.
There's also Prasad Srinivasan.
Yeah, he was on the Health Committee as well, yeah.
And he's a medical doctor.
Yes.
Great. And as we said, Department of
Yeah.
Public Health is backing this bill now.
Yes.
American Pediatrics as well. It's really
Department
incredible.
of Consumer Protection. And there's also a pharmacist association
Oh, that's
that's
great.
included in there.
Wow. And so, you know, we just so appreciate you guys sharing these stories because we know this is really personal and it's not easy to talk about. And as you said, you're continuing the fight and you're a great follow on Facebook because you guys do post a lot of new information up there all the time. And, you know, before we let you go, just on a happier note, we were talking before about Make-A-Wish Connecticut, and the HAN Network is working with Make-A-Wish all this month to try to collect airline miles to make those wishes come true. And I know recently Ella had her wish granted because she can't do a lot and can't always be out with her friends.
Yes.
She had a playroom done for her, correct?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
We basically had our two-car garage made into a room, and they came in and did a remodel. They put in a clubhouse with a slide and a swing, and they're installing a climbing wall as I speak.
Cool.
So, and it's temperature controlled, and it's it's a safe space for her, so
play.
she doesn't have the urge to want to go outside when it's too hot for her.
Right, and she could have her friends over, which
Yes.
is so great.
And we've had a lot more friends over.
It's a great playroom. Oh my goodness, there's more pictures of that at the Wilton Bulletin. And Joy, Jameson also had a wish granted
Yeah,
too.
he was granted a wish last year, and we went away to Turks and Caicos.
Wow.
He told them he loved fish, so they sent us away.
Wait, that's a great photo of you too. I
So
love
we
that.
had an amazing time. We love Make-A-Wish. We were just talking about them the other day. We will do anything for them anytime
Yes.
because they really made our children so happy, and they do so much good. And we just love anyone that does good for
Yes.
children.
I would love to get involved in fundraising for them.
yeah, they're
They
amazing.
do such amazing work.
Yeah.
Well, that's our little shout out to Make-A-Wish
Yeah.
CT because we love them. We're going to take a break. Ladies, thank you again so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. And we'll keep checking in on that bill. And we'll be back. We're going to talk about some of the stories we're following this week on CT Pulse after this.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
At the Sylvan Learning Center of Darien, experienced teachers and personalized academic support equals superior results. Our certified teachers uncover skill gaps, address specific needs, and help students realize greater academic success and increased confidence. We're enrolling now. Individualized after-school tutoring in reading, math, history, elementary math, algebra, geometry, calculus, high school science, and study skills. For a free consultation, call 203-655-3276 or email gmcsylvan@gmail.com. For over 25 years, Mike Cizik Painting and Wallpapering has been the name to know for residential and commercial properties in Fairfield County. He uses only the top brands, including Benjamin Moore, for impeccable preparation and lasting quality. Call Mike now and receive $500 off any job over $7,000. Mike is currently accepting reservations for spring, so call him today at 203-770-8869 or 203-972-3310. For your custom painting, finishing, and staining needs, it's Mike Cizik.
Can't wait for it to get warmer so you can start fishing again? Get over to the Dock Shop, where they have the latest in fishing tackle, marine electronics, boating supplies, and more. But remember, the Dock Shop isn't your average tackle shop. You'll also find the finest selection of nautical apparel, jewelry, home decor, and gifts in New England. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, dockshop.com. I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune into Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
We're back on CT Pulse on the HAN network. Now it's just myself and Josh.
Hi, Kate.
Our guests have left, Josh, but really interesting topic to discuss. We're happy to have them back. And Josh, there's some other state news you're following this week.
Sure, we'll get to that quickly before we get to Doug Smith and the cartoons that'll be in tomorrow's newspapers. What's interesting, another thing, Wallet Hub has been releasing all of these different items from around, and my story totally got replaced here, Kate. That's so weird.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, here it is. Okay.
Copy and paste error.
Yeah. So Connecticut is among the worst states in the country when it comes to returning investment to its taxpayers. And it's the 8th worst when it came to giving taxpayers a positive return on what they paid for, according to the site, which is interesting as we face another gigantic deficit here in the state, and the state unions are now balking at making any concessions once again. Connecticut's the 3rd worst when it comes to total taxes per capita. The state did rank favorably in other areas. It's 2nd in the nation in education, 8th in safety, 15th in health, 17th in economy, and 26th in infrastructure and pollution, which I don't think that's great because that's right in the middle. So And another move to this is for legalizing marijuana
Right,
in the
which
state.
we've heard is not going to do so.
No,
It's not getting the support
not
that the
gonna
medical
happen.
marijuana
It's
bill
already
is.
been, the two bills legalizing the recreational use of marijuana already failed during the General Assembly session this week due to inaction. But the bill's proponents came out yesterday on Tuesday. There was an informal hearing at the Legislative Office building to keep the issue alive. And a New Haven rep is planning to resurrect the legalization bill next week. And one of the proponents, we talked about this earlier in the year, is that Connecticut could make some money because it would be the first state in the Northeast to legalize recreational marijuana. But Massachusetts is looking at it, of course, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island also. So what the proponents are saying is if Connecticut doesn't, get on it now, then it'll lose out on, It's kind of like when we had the casinos first popped up here in
Right.
Connecticut, and people were traveling from all over to go visit the Indians, in eastern Connecticut and lose money. But now every single state in the Northeast almost has a casino, so we aren't bringing in that income from out of state. And then if we could just move to politics, because we've had, pretty much every Republican we've had come in here since we started the show in January, when we've asked them, who do you support for president, they've pretty much all said Kasich, and that Ted Cruz scares them the most. Kasich's PAC, which is New Day for America, has opened up 3 offices here in Connecticut. He's only won one state in the entire primaries, his home state of Ohio. But he has set up offices in Southington, Westbrook, and Fairfield. He'll be speaking. He'll have a town hall forum at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield on Friday. And it looks like the governor of Ohio, who refuses to get out of the race, because it looks like, thanks to what happened in Wisconsin last night, good chance at a contested race. The betting markets say over 70% chance that there'll be a contested thing. I'm going to have to take vacation that week.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I know. And you're going to be seeing John Kasich speak this Friday.
Yes, and then I'll be
And you
there.
can tell us about it next Wednesday on CT
I
Pulse.
can't wait. I'll take good notes for you, Kate.
All right. Well, I'm going to introduce our own Doug Smith. He's provided us with some sports-related cartoons this week, and he's drawing conclusions on the Evil Witch's gingerbread house. Doug, how could you? She's going to put you in the oven.
We're Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
I guess I had to go for insulin shots.
So you did give us this week's cartoons and also some fun sports-related ones because we were gone kicking off the spring season with the FCAC
exactly.
tour.
The FCAC thing began, so I thought I'd touch on that.
Yeah, we love it. All right, well, let's start looking through some of our cartoons this week. All right, tell us about this one.
This is in Shelton. Last week they had a meeting on the Long Hill condo development proposal, and everyone in town, well, not everyone, a lot of people came out and were vehemently against the thing. They did say that they got a couple letters in favor of it.
A couple, and one must be a developer.
Exactly.
And I love this. Now, Shake Shack was supposed to move to Darien,
Right.
but then there was some issue with signs.
Big rigmarole about the zoning of the sign. It had to
Yes.
be so many centimeters high, it can't be this color, it has to be back from the street.
Yeah.
They went back and forth, and finally Shake Shack just said,
Forget it.
It's not
What's
worth it.
amazing, too, is that part of Darien is one of the ugliest parts of the post road in all of America, I think. Like, what do they care what the hell the sign
I know.
looks like?
So I love that. Instead of Shake
Just-
Shack, make tracks.
Yep.
There you go. That's what they're saying. All right, tell us about this
And,
Lewisboro
Lewisboro, it started touching on the cartoon the other week about the genteel decline in town. So I got a Rolls Royce
love
Phantom there
that.
just heading down the hill.
That's a good one,
That
Doug.
is funny. I mean, it's like the genteel decline in Lewisboro. Give me a break.
I know.
I was editor of that paper in like
Yeah, it didn't
03
sound
to
so
05.
genteel from your stories
It's the
there.
opposite of genteel.
Interesting. Now, the next one is kind of gross, but tell us about
well, the
this.
story is even grosser in
Yeah,
Milford
it
Mirror
is.
this week about the non-biodegradable wipes which
Ooh.
do not break down in the sewage.
Oh,
Because of
fun.
Fat Dan, I think they're called.
Fat burgers.
Yeah.
or
Fat
something?
burgers,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's like my least favorite term I've ever learned.
So I did you a favor, though I didn't color in the thing. So
Thank you.
Next week.
All right, what's this one
the
about?
post
Little
office
mailbox?
is finally open, I guess, after construction in Monroe.
Okay, nice.
So
I
just
like
a silly
it.
little thing.
And tell us about
This
the
Weston's front page story this week deals with the red bee honey apiary. Just a little stand there in town. Which,
and the bees are using agave nectar
exactly
instead of their own
lower
honey.
glycemic index, I guess.
Lower glycemic index. All right, up next.
The ongoing problem in New Canaan with the parking. just saying, the only parking space I could find wasn't nearby, and he's like, where'd you
What
park?
town do we have that's not having some
I know.
parking issue?
It could be used in
You could use
Ridgefield
that
or-
everywhere. Yeah, New Canaan.
The thing is people are unwilling to walk. They want to find a spot right in front of where they go.
Oh, yeah, they can't-
And in New Canaan too, you got all the
if it's-
realtors park on Elm Street too and take up the spots.
He's calling you out.
Yep.
Calling him out.
Even if it's a couple blocks over, they say it's too far.
Oh, yeah.
So,
All right, and up next we have a little Trump action
yeah,
joke here.
touching on political humor here.
Stratford trying to keep out-of-town kids from using our schools. Maybe you could build a wall.
Who's going to pay for it?
Trump? I don't know.
Definitely not Stratford.
Maybe Tim Herbst will pay for that.
There you go.
And here we get into
Okay.
some of your sports cartoons. Tell
Right.
us about
This
this
a couple
one.
years ago, there was an outcry in Shelton that they were claiming the boys' sports were getting a lot more of the budget than the girls' sports. So I just did a scoreboard there.
Interesting. Angry athlete, too.
It was about Shelton High School swim team.
Lorraine Warren, yes, so
Right.
they call on Lorraine Warren for their fundraiser for
Right.
the swim team every year. It's so funny. It's such a fun, but
Yep.
that is kind of, oh my gosh, that's a great joke.
I figured
like
after
that one,
the
Doug.
meet, the creatures probably attacked the ref
I
there.
always thought, who does on the swim team knows Lorraine Warren that they pull her in for their fundraiser
I know
every
she's
year?
from Monroe anyway.
She
not,
is, yeah, she's
not
from
Shelton,
the area.
So
It's
who
very
knows?
funny. And what about this one?
It's about this is also in Shelton a few years ago when they had the pay for play
Oh,
program
yes.
going.
Right, 25% decrease. That's right.
And that was a little bit later on. The mayor was trying to get rid of it.
I
Already
remember
hitting the
that
ball
quite
there.
well, yes. And what town was this for?
I think that was Trumbull, a new scoreboard that they paid over 250 grand for.
Oh, yeah. We're seeing a lot of scoreboards lately, and this a lot lately if it gets warm enough where we
Yeah.
actually have some mud.
Washington Field in Milford there tends to flood a lot. Doesn't have runoff for the water, so it just turns into a big mud pile.
Oh, and this is a good one.
John
we
Jay
didn't have
Middle
this problem
School.
this year, though, really.
No, this was last year.
With all the snow. No snow this year.
Somebody actually wrote into me and said that's not a bad idea.
Right?
to-
Yeah.
Now, where was
did
this
it in
that
New York.
someone was allegedly
That
stealing
was in that was
198,000?
Lewisboro as well.
Oh, that's right. I remember
Where the
that.
genteel decline. Just
Yeah.
Or that genteel decline, man.
Can you get
Score.
negative? Can you do negative gentility?
Oh, and what about this
This
one?
is also in Lewisboro, and this is just like the nonsense that they have to go through in some fields with the insurance, the regulations, the committees, and kids just saying
lot
what
going
sort of the
on.
way I feel like we used to just play in vacant lots or just
Anywhere
fields.
you could find to just
and
play.
we had a lot more fun before
Right.
the grown-ups were involved.
I hear you. All right.
And finally, this is ongoing thing in Darien
oh my gosh,
about the
ongoing
lighting.
this week, right? We've been following that a lot on Coffee Break. Now some neighbors are saying they're okay with it, but they
I
only
know.
want 10 games a year.
Well, the ones who
and-
want the lights don't want to pay for it, and the ones who
Right.
live on the field don't want the lights there.
Yeah,
So
so some interesting stories there. You can follow that at DarienTimes.com. Doug, as always, thanks so much. We're
Thank
happy
you.
to finally be back and have you in
Yeah.
studio.
I thought you didn't want me.
Oh, we missed you. We missed you. All right, Josh, we're going to
Okay.
wrap things up for CT Pulse this week. Of course, we'll be back next Wednesday. And today we have boys lacrosse. Nutmeg Sports coming up at 2. Lacrosse at 4:30. Check it out. We'll see you next time.